Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back. I know that I missed like a week or two, or honestly, I don't even remember at this point. Um, but I went on vacation and it was a wild success. And I am so excited to be back finally filming an episode of the podcast. And I'm excited to just dive right into it. So, welcome back to The Designated Designer, a podcast about design where curiosity is the compass, creativity lights the way, and transformation is just part of the trip. I'm your host, Jennifer Stank, your brand spirit guide for this wild, wonderful ride where we navigate together our creative existence in today's modern world. On today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you guys pretty much my entire vacation experience. So if you're not really interested in listening to me talk about like cars burning rubber and camping in the woods for an entire weekend in Virginia, feel free to just skip this episode. But I did learn a lot of really great things on the trip, and it brought a lot into perspective as far as my business and business planning and all that kind of stuff that I really didn't initially anticipate, but it happened. So I'm just going to talk you through all of it because it was a really awesome experience and I'm so glad I did it. So in case anyone out there is wondering what your first vacation looks like as an entrepreneur, I'm going to talk about that in today's episode. I was really nervous going on vacation for the first time. We've been on like little vacations. Last year, we went out for a day, like it was July, and we went out. We were gonna stay a whole weekend out in Ohio for Incarceration Fest. It's like this big music event where they have like metal music and they have tattoo artists and all that kind of stuff. People camp for the weekend. So we got tickets, I think, for the whole weekend, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And with the intent to like go out and spend the whole weekend, we like booked a hotel that was like an hour from the place and everything like that. But because everything last summer was a little bit hectic and crazy, we just decided to go for the day. So that really was like, I tried to plan a vacation, but then things just got chaotic. So we ended up just going out for the day and coming right home instead of trying to stay the night. So that was probably the closest thing to vacation that I really had as an entrepreneur. So having to pack up for like a whole Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and basically Monday, because Monday was like I spent the whole day doing laundry and like trying to unpack and get the house back in order. So a Thursday to Monday was like terrifying for me, honestly. And I've been really overwhelmed in my business lately. Like just in general, I've been like sitting at my desk and just being like, whew, I'm overwhelmed today. And that's okay. I'm working through it and I'm trying to make sure to give myself enough breaks and times to rest and try to navigate the workload that I'm under right now in my second year of business and where things start getting a little bit crazy. The nice thing is my systems are starting to lift some weight, which is really, really cool. If I don't think that if that was happening, I would have been able to be as comfortable as I was going on vacation. So that was really cool because my entire first year in business, like I spent so much time putting these systems into place and trying to get Notion dialed in and to the point where it's turning things around on its own, like through automations and stuff. So like when somebody fills out a contact form, that it's automatically turning that into a job ticket in the back end and creating a task for me to follow up with the lead and, you know, assigning it a due date. So that way, when I come back to my computer, it's like I kind of have that person assigning me tasks in the background, even though it's just a AI automation. So all of those systems really started to lift some heavy weight. I didn't think that I would ever see the day because it was really discouraging, like how many hours I dumped into Notion my first year in business and not getting paid for those hours. You know, it's really hard to invest something like that in your business where it's not like you're investing money and you're getting a direct return on investment like straight away. You're investing your time and hoping that it pays off someday. And that was really scary to do my first year in business, especially trying to make sure it was going to be a financially stable business. So that was tough. And that was a really big leap of faith where I just kept at it. And I was like, I know that it feels like I'm wasting so much time right now and I should be doing client acquisition, but I understood how important getting the proper systems in place was going to be. And now a year later, and I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and I'm like, is this something that's even feasible? Can I walk away from my business for this many days? at this point in its like growth period where it's like still in a baby phase. I still have to care for a business baby, and it needs a lot of attention, and it's scary to have to think you have to walk away from that. But my systems really did help me feel confident in that. And my systems worked like the entire time I was on vacation. They were running in the background and I was getting leads, and I knew that they were going where they needed to go. You know, like when I would get a lead and it would be like a text message or a DM or whatever. It was always really stressful because it's like, if I forget to answer that, I'm going to lose a job. But now it's like knowing that there's a form to be filled out and the leads are being captured in the proper way gives me a lot of peace of mind. The most stressful part about having to leave for vacation, truthfully, was making sure that the cats were taken care of because, like I had mentioned, I think, maybe in the podcast, we have a diabetic cat and he's on like a super, super strict feeding schedule. So they have to be fed 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m., only certain foods, only certain portions. It's like a whole thing. And I was really nervous about that. My sister was amazing and was willing to come down for the entire weekend and cat sit for us. So thank God for her, because if that weren't the case, we definitely would not have been going on vacation. And there were some hiccups, but we both got through it and it was a really great time. So let's dive into the trip. I have never been camping before in my life. So I was really excited to kind of learn about all of these new wonderful things that I didn't even know existed. And we ended up driving like 7 or 8 hours on Thursday night. We got to my fiance's friend's place and we all slept there for the night because we were like an hour away from the racetrack and the gates didn't open until 8 a.m. on Friday morning. So we all got up at like 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Going all the way down to Virginia was crazy. The mountains change. I think that was such a cool thing on the trip down, was like, we're up in the north and our mountains are like rounder just due to the way that the earth like weathered mountains with rain and conditions and stuff. And or something about like our mountains were first and that's why they got rounder, and then the Virginia mountains and the further south you go on like the Appalachian Mountains, or Appalachia is how they say it in Virginia. We've always said like Appalachian. I don't even know if there's a right or wrong way to say it, but it was like Appalachia is the correct way to say it. At least that's what I was told when we were hanging out with the Virginians. But yeah, I feel like somewhere in school, I remember them teaching us like those mountains were formed later than the mountains up here. So that's why these mountains are more round and the mountains down there are more pointy. Whatever the reason is, I digress. It's silly, but that kind of stuff interests me. And that's how my brain works. And it's like we're driving through this entire area and that's just my brain going a mile a minute. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder. And I'm thinking about the time that when I learned in school, and I apply this stuff to my business. So it's really cool to see, even when I step away from my business and even when I do throw that switch off, it never shuts off all the way, but sometimes it like is a nice thing. Like I like thinking like that. I like constantly trying to figure things out and understand the meaning of why things are a certain way, because I feel like that plays into so much of our personality as brand strategists. You know, we're constantly like trying to find the meaning in everything and represent it visually. So I think it's really cool that my brain just does that on autopilot. But anyway, continued on the drive. We ended up having to stop for alcoholic beverages because it was vacation. And down there, like everything was different. So we pull up to this Fine Wine and Good Spirits, and I'm not even shitting you when I say it was a drive-through. I have never seen a drive-through Fine Wine and Good Spirits in my entire life. I'm from Pennsylvania, and our Fine Wine and Good Spirits are like these little back alley, like closet, like shops. This thing was like amazing. It was like so well kept. It was so clean. It was so new. It was a drive-through. Like I was so blown away. And we were like, do you know where you can point us in a direction in this local town to go get like beer and White Claw? And the people there were so nice. The guy that we asked actually didn't work there, and he was so sweet about it. He was like, I don't work here, but I know that she does, and I'm willing to bet that she can help you. And he was like super sweet about it. I'm just used to getting screamed at up here, up north. And then the girl tells us oh, you could go over, there's a Walmart right across the street. You could go get it there. And I was like, you guys sell alcohol at Walmart down here? What? Every single thing that happened on this trip made me want to move down to Virginia, I swear. But anyway, they were like, yeah, just go over to the Walmart. So we go over to the Walmart, we pick up our beer and wine and alcohol, get back on the highway, and then we make it down to his friend's place. They were all super, super cool people. And the one girl, her name is Sam, and she's so much like me. I never met somebody in my entire life that was so similar to my personality, and it was the most refreshing recharge I didn't know that I needed. So me and her pretty much palled around the whole time. Once we got to the racetrack, we were getting our camp set up, and we had a couple hiccups with that, but we rock and rolled right through it. And they really taught me to roll with the punches in this style of weekend camping. So we got everything set up, we got comfortable, we start cracking open some cold ones, we got everything situated, we got our tent set up, and I was so excited about our tent because I had never tent camped ever in my life, and I was so excited to try something new. Now, granted, this was no kind of camping like traditional camping is, where you're doing like cooking over a bonfire and you're in the middle of the woods and there's no reception and there's no people. Like, it was an event at a racetrack, at a NASCAR racetrack. So it was like there were port-a-potties, there were food trucks, there was vending and merchandise and all kinds of stuff. So it was by no means real camping, but we camped at the racetrack. So we were in tents sleeping overnight. And pretty much there was like nowhere to wash your hands. And I don't really have OCD, but I have it to an extent where I get like itchy if I can't wash my hands every like hour. I know that's probably excessive, but that's just who I am. So that was uncomfortable, and I was really glad that it happened, because sometimes it's good to make yourself uncomfortable because growth does not occur in comfort zones. And by the end of the trip, by the time I got home, I was not washing my hands like as obsessively, and that was really nice. So I was able to kind of force myself into a little bit of positive growth there, which was cool. Not washing your hands for like the entire weekend though was really tough. Like, when it rained, I was literally standing out in the rain, cupping my hands just so I could wash my hands when it was raining. And they had water too. Like, we would wash our hands before we ate and everything, but I didn't want to like waste the entire drinking water supply to obsessively feed my hand washing compulsion. So I was trying to be good, and that was really fun and interesting to be able to push myself to do. But yeah, on day one, we pretty much got everything set up. We were chilling out. We were drinking a little bit. Where we were was right at one of the turns, so we just got to watch cars ripping it the whole weekend, and the way the wind was blowing would just blow the burnout smoke right over our heads. It was such an incredible experience. We were camping with two other couples, so it was me and Matt and his friend and his wife, and then his friend's friend and his friend's friend's wife. So there were like three couples that went. And the one couple had their own canopy, and then Matt's friends, that couple, had their own canopy. We all had our own tents. So we were all kind of just hanging out. We had the two canopies set up. We had a bunch of chairs. We had just enough chairs. And I thought that was hilarious because Matt has this like hunting folding chair that his dad gave him. And it was just in the Ford Ranger for the longest time, and we didn't even realize that it was there. But when we were packing and like had to pull the seats forward, we were like, oh my God, I forgot that this was here. So we were like, let's take it. And because we took that chair, we had just enough seats for everybody. So that was really cool. And everybody was like, this seat's so awesome. It was just like a little fold out thing. They had like the most insane glamping, like unfoldable hammock rocking chair seats, hammocks, all this stuff. And they were just making such a big deal about this little fold up chair that Matt had. I thought it was so funny. But yeah, we were all kind of chilling out. Then right around dinner time on the first night, it was Friday night, this storm came through, and I have never seen a storm hit as hard and fast as this storm. So we were all just chilling, just drinking, getting ready to start dinner because Sam was going to make steaks. And she was like, I want to marinate the steaks around 5. Right at 5 o'clock, these like 60-mile-an-hour straight line winds just came tearing down the mountain range and lifted all the canopies at once. We all got up, we all grabbed onto the legs of the canopy. Matt's friend's canopy broke, but the other canopy was good. And we were all just holding on for dear life. And it was the most amazing experience ever. It was like terrifying because I never experienced that kind of stuff, but it was fun. And we were like all just in this storm together, trying to make sure that our stuff didn't blow away. And then once the storm passed, we got everything set back up. We had a lovely dinner. We kind of just took things slow the first day, but it was so much learning. Like I was just soaking in as much as I could. I thought it was so cool to be able to see people that like do this regularly and kind of like they've done it before. And they had all the bells and whistles. It was like they had the coolers and they had the canopies and they had portable charging banks and they had the chairs and they had all this kind of stuff, the gadgets and gizmos. And like any time that I was like, hey, do you have something for this? Like they always had something for that. And it was just really cool to be able to get to see that side of life that I've never been able to experience before, because every time you can open your horizon as a creative, like anytime that you have an opportunity to go and experience life through a totally different perspective, I can't even begin to tell you how incredibly beneficial that is for you as a creative, because the next time you approach a project, you now have new insight. You now have a fresh perspective. You now have all of this extra knowledge that you can continue to apply to your projects and your craft. Like it's never a losing situation, even if it's a case where like stuff goes wrong. Like his friend was so bent out of shape about the storm tearing through and like ripping up the canopies and stuff, and it rained on us and everything, but I was like smiling, like holding this thing, just smiling, looking around like, wow, this is so cool. And even though he thought that was like gonna ruin our trip, it made the trip that much better, in my opinion, because I got to experience everything. It wasn't just like a beautiful weekend. It was like when a storm hits, like what do you do when you're in this kind of situation? And I got to see every single part of everything I could have seen that weekend. And it was just the coolest thing. So anytime you have a chance to kind of broaden your perspective as a creative, jump on it. You will thank me. I promise you. So that was just Friday. And I don't want to bore you with too many details, but Saturday was the cool day. We woke up, they had breakfast started. They had these little black stone portable grills. Again, just all of the things. And they cooked on the first day. They made these Hawaiian roll sliders. So it was like they cut the Hawaiian rolls, like opened up all the buns, and then they laid like a full rectangle sausage patty on it, and then all of the scrambled egg, and then put like cheese and put the tops back on and just cut them apart. So it was like these little breakfast sandwich sliders. They were so good. They did sausage ones and bacon ones. Oh my God. And the bacon smelled so good when it was cooking. And I was just sitting there chilling. It was like a little bit rainy that morning, and we were like, is it gonna get nice out? It was like rainy and gray on Saturday morning. We were all just kind of sitting there. It was nice because it was so hot on Friday. It was so hot. So the rain kind of helped things cool off, and it was like chilly enough on Saturday morning that I wanted my hoodie. So I was just chilling, like all cozy in my hoodie, and we were chilling in our little camping chairs that were super comfortable. And it was just the quietest little morning, and they made breakfast, and it was really nice. And then once we were done with breakfast, it's like, let's go get merch, because we wanted to get it early on Saturday so that way it didn't sell out. So we were like, let's go get merch. And we had these little freaking like mini bikes. They're like children's dirt bikes. They're the smallest motorized bicycles I've ever seen in my life. They're like the little tiny kids dirt bikes, and you're allowed to ride those around the track to get from point A to point B because it's so big. It's like a big NASCAR track. So we all had these little mini bikes, and we were cramming all of our adult butts on them. It was hilarious. It was so much fun. So we took all the bikes out, and we were kind of doing, I think in the morning we walked. Right. So in the morning we walked because Sam was saying, like, we rode the mini bikes around so much on Friday. She was like, Saturday I want to walk so I can at least get my steps in. So that morning when we went to do merch, we walked, and it was cloudy and gray and rainy when we first started. Like it was drizzling a little bit, but then by the time we got down to the tents and start walking around, it started to clear up. And I got the cutest little backpack that I love so much. I got a Sparko backpack. It's like a little mini backpack. I've always wanted one. I never treat myself. And I told myself I wanted to treat myself at least once on this vacation if I was able to. and I saw this backpack and just fell in love. And I never would pay like $30 for a little tiny purse-sized backpack, but it was just one of those things. And I was like, you've been working really hard, just treat yourself. And I got it. And I was so glad that I did, because this little backpack has come with me everywhere since. I use it to keep stuff like sunglasses, a bottle of water, sunscreen, my earplugs, you know, for noise when there's loud cars or stuff, contact solution, an extra contact case because I'm a blind bitch, and stuff like that. You know, the essentials, my wallet, you know, the stuff that I need to have on me. And it's always tough as a girl because you know how much you're limited on pocket space. So trying to carry all of the stuff everywhere is ridiculous. And I usually keep it like crammed in Matt's glove box of the Ranger and stuff like that. But I got this backpack and I was like so excited about it because it was hard that weekend trying to carry stuff with you. Like you would venture all the way across the track and you'd be out for a couple hours and your sunscreen would be wearing off. You would need to reapply and you would have to take the mini bike all the way back to the tent to camp and get your sunscreen and then ride all the way back. So it was like I really wanted something that I can carry all of my essentials with me. And this little backpack was just perfect. So as soon as we got back to the campsite, I was so excited to pack it up with all the stuff. It was the first thing that I did. And I carried it with me for the rest of the weekend. And it was so useful. And this showed me, as far as business is concerned, sometimes we don't make purchases in certain things because we think we'll be fine without it, or, you know, we don't have the extra money to go around to invest. But sometimes you don't realize how useful something is going to prove to be. The only reason I bought that backpack was because I told myself I wanted to treat myself. If I didn't say that, I would never have bought that backpack otherwise. And I'm really glad I did because it proved to be so useful. Beyond just that weekend, when we got home, Matt's dad wanted to go watch a dirt race at Grandview Speedway, which was also super exciting and also kind of part of my vacation because it was like the Wednesday after we got back. And I loved dirt racing. Back when I was in college, I actually did the editorial magazine that was like released weekly for Action Track USA in Kutztown. And I fell in love with dirt racing, being able to be that close to it and having a design tied to it. And I got to go to Grandview once that year when I was kind of doing the editorial, and I loved it so much, but I was never able to go back since. And Matt was like, hey, my dad wants to go to like a car race tonight. I know it's last minute, and I know with your business things are tough with last minute, but like, is there any way that you can make it happen? I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm totally fine. I didn't know where it was. And I was like, where is it? Just because I wanted to know like how long it was going to take us to get there. And he was like, oh, it's Grandview Speedway. And I was just like, the universe is being so nice to me right now, because between the Virginia trip and Grandview and everything, I was hitting such a wall with creative burnout, and this truly helped fix so much of it. I needed this trip so bad, and I needed just a break and being able to kind of feel like my old self again and remember where my old passions were and just really get to unplug and disconnect from this super crazy, super fast, like social media world. So it was really great to do that. And the entire trip, other than the cats, other than me being anxious about the cats, I really did unplug from my phone. You know, I wasn't answering clients. I was on social media very, very little. And, you know, I was just trying to be in the moment and enjoy the moment. And I'm really glad I did. So Saturday was fun. We got this backpack, to get back to the story. And by the time we got down to the end of the vendors, like all the way down to the end, the sun was out full force and we didn't have any sunscreen on. And me and Sam are both very pale, and we told each other we were going to be on each other about sunscreen the entire trip. So we were like, our faces are starting to feel the feeling. We start making our way back to camp. By the time we were getting closer to getting back to camp, they wanted to do some more shopping, but me and Sam were like, we're going to start to burn. So me and Sam ventured off by ourselves to go back to camp. I packed up my backpack. I got my sunscreen on. We relaxed for a little bit and we drank for a little bit. And then we went to watch the main track, the tandem drifting. So cool. So cool. Obsessed. I can't wait until the business is able to afford like being able to be in the drift life and build a drift car and go to these events and race them. Like, that's going to be cool. But that's a couple of years out. So we were just watching it, and Matt's friend Seth actually had a camera, like a professional camera, and he was taking shots of these cars that were so good. I could not even believe how good they were. And he was like, these aren't even that good. And I'm like, you're such a freaking artist, because I know the feeling. They were so good. So getting to watch him participate in that artistic craft as a creative was super cool. Really, really added to the trip. We got to watch some really cool cars drifting. I got to see the really cool shots that he was taking. And he even had like one of those portable printers. Like his camera box that he brought with him was insane. It had every part. It was so organized. It was so neat. It was so tidy. He had this like printable portable printer where he could print off the photos and like sign the back and take it to the driver and like give them the photos of the cars that he was taking pictures of. So that was really cool to just watch him do that. So we did that for a little bit, and then we watched the Power Wheels where they take all of like the Jeeps and the Barbie Jeeps and stuff and race them down a hill. So that was fun. And yeah, that pretty much wrapped up Saturday. And then Sunday we got up, we made our breakfast, we did one more, little lap and watched a little bit more stuff and hung out, and then pretty much headed home. So I know I definitely left some stuff out, but the overall trip was amazing, and getting to see life from an entirely different perspective. Like, this was so not me. Like, camping in a tent and, not having like indoor plumbing and stuff like that is usually a very not me thing. But I was floored at the thought of being able to live life in such a drastically different way. And I'm glad I did, because I came back refreshed and ready to tackle the world. I came back with new ideas and a fresh perspective, and I was able to apply it right away to client work, to business work, to growing myself work, to growing my business work, like everything, every part of it. It was just such an incredible, wholesome experience. And all of my clients were so understanding. Before vacation, I made sure to email or message every single one of them that I'm currently working with right now on a project and let them know I'm going away on vacation. I'll be away on these days. If there's anything urgent, please let me know no later than this date, if there is anything urgent that has to get done. But otherwise, I'm out of office. And that was my way of being able to let myself disconnect. And I'm really glad I did that. I'm glad I wasn't answering emails or stressing out about where leads were going, or if, somebody doesn't hear back in so many days, they're gonna think that I'm not interested. Like, all of those thoughts that were around in our head as a business owner, like, I put so many of those to bed before going on the trip, and it really allowed me to enjoy it to its full potential. And I really did. It was such a great time. But yeah, I let all of my clients know, like, hey, I'm going to be out on vacation. And when I came back, almost every single one of them asked me how it was, like, how was your vacation? Did you enjoy your vacation? That's totally fine. Have so much fun. Like, the humanity that I'm starting to see in this little business world of mine is just so amazing and incredible. My clients are my everything, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of them, and being able to go on trips like this so that I could see life in a different perspective and apply that to their kick-ass branding and make it even better than before. So that's my little vacation wrap up for this week, guys. Thanks for being patient with me, even though I missed an episode last week. I really appreciate you guys showing up on this podcast and listening to me ramble about nonsense for probably way too long. I appreciate each and every one of you. Like, literally every viewer means so much to me. And before I go, I have to add, on Saturday, when we were sitting in our little chairs and the sun was so beautiful and the sky was so blue and life was so good, I got a message from a designer, if I'm remembering it correctly, in Denver, Colorado, and it was about the podcast. And she said that, she listened to the whole podcast, and from start to finish, she could really see the growth and everything like that. It was the sweetest message I had ever received. It was so much sweeter than I'm able to make it sound. I don't want to like read it word for word on the podcast, but basically she was like, you're doing so good and I support you and I could see the growth and, you're doing great and hell yeah. And it was just the sweetest message that I ever did read. And I got to read this message and feel so refueled and so refreshed on vacation. I was just like sitting there and I'm like, holy shit. This person across the country found my podcast somehow and they're listening to it and they like it. Like, I can't wrap my head around that because this all felt so strange when I started it. I really don't know how to podcast. I'm terrible at talking and public speaking, every bit of it. Like, I'm so bad at it and I get such anxiety, but being able to sit here and just kind of learn to surf and learn to go with the flow and struggle through it, because everything's going to be uncomfortable. You know, you're going to be bad at it if you start something new. Nobody walks into anything and is perfect at it. It takes time and effort and practice. And you guys have given me a space where I can grow. You know, like she talked about the growth and she can see such growth since the beginning episode to now, but that's because of you. You know, that's because of the people that show up and message me and say that they look forward to the podcast dropping every week and write these beautiful long messages to me about the podcast. And they're so sweet and kind. And that is exactly what fuels it. So I owe this to you guys. And thank you so much for showing up. And to the designer that wrote that message, you literally made my vacation better. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to make mine that much better. I love all of you guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Talk to you soon. Bye.